Good afternoon. I have recently just watched Max Bauer's video on Gene Kim becomes a flat earther, and so Gene Kim is talking about the gap and a lot of cosmological stuff, you know, the three heavens, and, this type of stuff. Now, I am a geocentrist. The Bible teaches the geocentrist view. There's no question about that. The heavens are moving around the earth. The flat earth thing, that was way over my head. I have no idea what these people are talking about when they deal with that. So I just leave that one aside. But the gap thing is very interesting, because the gap thing, the problem with the gap is that the people have defended it. The people, proponents of it, defend it incorrectly. Defend it for the wrong reasons. They've tried to bring, defend it with the wordage, in the Genesis 1 account. They tried to defend it with the science thing. A lot of these guys are afraid of the archaeology, that definitely archaeology proven old Earth, and therefore they said, man clearly couldn't have been here that long, so they had to find something going on there with that. So that's the case where, and that's where you get a lot of, like with Pempa, they had another civilization here earlier, and angels and ruling over the, on Earth and this type of thing. And these were hypotheses and theories that you can't prove. But the gap is a fact, but it's an historical gap. It's an historical gap in a narrative. Now, Max is very right that when you read Genesis, you would never think about any gaps, because you're just reading right through it and you just go right. But someone shows up in Genesis 3, the serpent, and he starts talking to Adam, to the woman. Evil is introduced into the garden. We have a tree of knowledge of good and evil. Evil is already in existence in the universe. So you have a gap historically, because you're not being told something that historically happened: the fall of Satan and the fall of the 130 angels. You're not told that in the Genesis account. There's an historical gap in the narrative. Either it happened between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, or it happened between Genesis 2 and 3. But there was a gap. There's a gap in Isaiah 61, too. That's the gap that the Lord pointed out when he stopped the acceptable year of the Lord, and between that and the day of wrath. It's 2,000 years so far, and there's a gap. It's an historical gap. So there are gaps throughout the Bible. You'll find gaps in time where some things will be completed first, the first advent and the second advent, gaps. But the problem with the gap view is that it's been defended for wrong reasons. Trying to defend an old Earth or for the new Earth. A gap doesn't have to be a long period of time. It doesn't have to be thousands of years. It doesn't have to be millions of years. It could be a day. And the historical gap is fall of Satan. Isaiah 14, Ezekiel 28. You've got to put them somewhere in Genesis. They happened before the fall of man. Now, did they happen before the creation man? I don't know. That'd be if it happened before the creation man, that'd be Genesis 1:1 and 2. If it happened before the fall of man, it would be happening in Genesis 1:2, Genesis 2 and 3. But Adam's sin was not the first sin in the universe. Satan's was, Lucifer. So the problem, the argument over the gap, is basically arguing over people who's using the wrong defense of it. But when people bring it up, it says, well, show me. I go to Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28. Show me where you see the fall of Satan anywhere in the Genesis account. There's a gap. God isn't telling us about the fall of Satan. Serpents, we know later on that that serpent is from Satan. He's the serpent coming in, and he induces that, indwells the creature to tempt Eve. So there's evil. God didn't create the evil. God did not create that evil. God creates, that's when people wonder, Isaiah, I think it's 44, God creates evil. The evil in there is God creating judgments for evil. There's evil that God creates, like, punishments. But the moral evil, the first moral evil, the rejection of God, was from Lucifer. And he says, I will be like the Most High. That came before the fall of Adam. And that means he had to be already in place in the fall of the angels, where he took 1/3 of the angels, had to be in place where then where he was going to try to take Adam down. Now there's a lot of speculation after that. Why he would do this. Obviously took over the power on earth. That's why he could tempt Christ with that, since he was the ruler of the world, and Christ admits that. Clearly, he's the God of this world. He has the title deeds. He had, or at least had them, until the cross. And of course, that's when the Lord was going to return, the second advent, to take back what's his, rightfully his now, because as the second Adam, he retook the title deed back. He just hasn't enforced it yet. So let me, just put that out there. People get back and forth on this gap, and they start arguing over the issue of the wording of Genesis, and they argue over, what happened, pre-time, and the old earth versus the young earth, and that nonsense. It's all irrelevant. It's and unknowable. I mean, man's only here about 7,000 years. Clearly, when you date back how long Adam lived, is about 7,000 years, or 7 to 10,000 years, whatever the date is. But there's a gap. There's an historical gap in a narrative. And evil came into the universe to fight God and reject God. And that started with Lucifer. And that is not explained or shown in Genesis. We don't see that. We don't see an explanation of that until Isaiah 14. That's a long way into the Bible. So when you get to Isaiah 14, what do you got to do? You got to go all the way back to Genesis. Then you get to Ezekiel 28, you got to go all the way back to Genesis and put that in there. You got to fill in a gap, an historical gap. So let me stop and put this up. Amen. Thank you.